The term UV refers to the bidimensional 2D nature of the process. The letters U and V denote the axes of the 2D texture because X, Y, and Z are already used to denote the axes of the 3D model. Here is an example that we like to use at CLO. We've all at least seen something like this. A chocolate candy wrapped in aluminum to look like a three-dimensional object. On the left is the candy completely unwrapped, on the right fully wrapped, and in the middle we have taken the wrapper off and flattened it out. In effect, this is what we're going to do in this lesson, is take our denim and flatten it out so that we can wrap it around our pattern pieces and create the illusion of a realistic denim pair of jeans. For this lesson, you're going to need three things: a finished garment, in this case men's jeans, an image or scans of a full garment from real life, and finally an image editing program, preferably Adobe Photoshop. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to work in CLO with our existing garment. As you can see, this is a pair of men's denim jeans, and I have the CLO denim raw fabric applied to the pattern pieces. I have also applied buttons, grommets, and top stitches as well. I have laid these patterns out in my 2D window like this for a specific purpose. They should be laid out like this in your 2D window because you will need a nice layout in your UV editor when you get there. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to click on the denim raw fabric here and delete the texture from the basic parameters. This leaves me with just white pattern pieces. I also have a zipper fabric that I have put in there. We can just simply ignore this for the moment. Once we have removed the textures from the pattern pieces that we're going to be using, we can switch to our UV editor. We do this by coming up to the upper right of the CLO window, clicking on Simulation, and choosing the UV editor. The reason that we put our patterns in the arrangement that we did in the 2D window is so that it would be easy to then arrange them in this window here. This area is the 0 to 1 UV. If I right-click in the background, I can start by saying Reset UV to 2D Arrangement. The next thing I can do is select these pieces. These are the textures for the grommets, the top stitches, and the buttons. We're not going to need these, but we're going to put these here so that they're out of the way. Then I'm going to right-click in the background and say Fit All UV to 01. This then puts our UV into this area, which is what we would like to do. I'm going to simply leave this length absolute as my default setting. Next, we are going to bake the textures and export them so that we can use them externally. I'm going to click on this icon here that says Bake Textures. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to choose a place to save them. I'm going to save them in this folder here with all my files for this tutorial, and I'm going to say Men's Denim UV and click Save. Leave the size at the standard 2K. Leave the UV area at 0 to 1. And make sure that you check Diffuse and Normal. Diffuse is the white part here of our pattern pieces. And click Save. Once the progress bar goes through, you can click Close, and you can exit out of the UV editor back to simulation. Now we need to do some work in Photoshop. I was able to take a decent photo of a pair of jeans that I own, and I removed any hint of copyright or markings that relate to the company who created the jeans. You can also use scans, scan your jeans in pieces. Most importantly, it's having the entire garment or as much of it as possible to create this entire UV texture. Next, open up the diffuse layer of your jeans that you have exported from Clo. This is just the pattern pieces. As you can see, it still has my zipper texture in there. I can delete these as they are not part of my layout for the UV, which I want to cover the textures for the rest of the garment. I can also delete the textures for the snaps, the buttons, the grommets, and the top stitches. The next thing you're going to do is either drag your denim images or scans into Photoshop or copy paste them from other documents. I like to take these two and put them into a group from layers so that I can easily turn them on and off or change the opacity of the scans all at once. Mine I dragged in here, so these are smart objects, so I will need to rasterize these smart objects before I move forward. Next, what you want to do is you want to scale these so that the sizing of each of the images starts to match the pattern pieces that are here. For example, this is our wearer's right leg. This is our wearer's left leg. My pattern pieces are transparent so I can see through and see the pattern pieces underneath. If you would like, you can put a temporary layer underneath with a darker color so that if you want to be able to better see your pattern pieces, you will be able to do so. So we would select these and be sure to either shift select both of these or lock these together, link them so that when you scale them, they scale together, so that the width and the height of everything starts to match up as needed. Next, I cut out the pockets and the belt loops, and I even used some blank texture for help underneath the waistband in the front and the back. A very important tool that I use is what's called the puppet warp tool. And if you're not familiar with this, I will give you a quick lesson on how to use this. If I select this layer here, which is this particular part of the leg, under the Edit menu, there is an option here that says Puppet Warp. What this does is when you select this, it turns your selected pixel imagery into a mesh. And you can then add in pins that will help you to do two things. One, to keep the pieces in place where you want them to stay in place. And two, you can click and drag these pieces so that the pieces move. You can get very minute changes, or you can also get very large changes and scalings so that you can make sure that your pattern pieces are covered by the texture. That is the main thing that you're trying to do here, is to have your pattern pieces be covered by the denim textures here in Photoshop. This one, I could use the puppet warp to fix this here, edit, puppet warp, and what I would need to do is I would need to anchor this so that parts of this won't move, and then I could pull this out. If I were to, for example, come up here and click this and move this, it's going to move the whole thing. So if you are moving just a small portion of this, make sure that you add in pins to hold it in place so that you can move the one. Okay? Along with your clone stamp and healing brush and basic scale and rotate, you should be able to get all of these pieces together. And when you file, export, save for web, you can choose JPEG, maximum, or PNG to export, and you will then be left with a single piece which will be used as the UV texture for your realistic denim jeans. I'm going to look at my denim raw fabric here. I'm then going to come to the front here, and I am going to delete the normal map from here, because when we baked our textures in the UV editor, we also exported the UV normal map. I'm going to change this texture mapping to unified, and then I'm going to click on the texture here. And here is my UV map that I was just working on in Photoshop, and I'm going to open that, and this will come in here. This falls perfectly in here because I have said unified. I'm also going to click here to put the normal map in from that export as well, which is this one here. For the side, I am simply going to click here on this side option. I currently have a normal map in there which will give me some texture. I'm going to click the color option here, and I'm going to use my eyedropper to pick a color to go in there. So there is our finished denim UV map and our realistic looking men's jeans. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to find more tutorials about how to succeed with Clo. Thank you.